CIA can't track it.
But we have a physical description. At least that isn't going to change.
He's got a lot of faces, this one.
No KGB member has ever seen him.
But he's about to meet his match.
Declan Mulqueen, IRA sharpshooter.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you another classic Bruce Willis review, and today I'm taking a look at the 1997 action thriller The Jackal. The film is directed by Michael Caton-Jones and stars, of course, Bruce Willis. We also have Richard Gere, Sidney Poitier, Diane Venora, J.K. Simmons and Jack Black. Right, okay, the film is a loose telling of the Frederick Forsyth novel The Day of the Jackal, and focuses on a renowned hitman, the Jackal, played by Bruce Willis, who is hired to assassinate somebody in the US as revenge for some Russian gangster being killed. He takes the job for $70 million and begins his trek across the globe in order to head towards his target. The FBI team up with Diane Venora's character, a Russian police officer, I suppose, and they go and see Richard Gere, who is an Irish prisoner being held in a jail in the US, who appears to be the only person who knows what the Jackal looks like. He agrees to help with certain conditions, and they head off in order to try and track down the Jackal. This all leads to a final confrontation as they have a realization who the Jackal's target really is. Right. What are my thoughts on The Jackal? This film, I think, is quite current at the minute, only because, you know, obviously there's that new Day of the Jackal TV show that's just come out, which I haven't seen yet. I actually quite fancy checking that one out. It's getting pretty decent reviews, I think. So I thought I would focus my next review on this film. It's a long time since I've seen this. I remember having this on VHS back in the day and watching it quite a lot. I was a pretty big fan of this film back in the day. And those were the days when I hadn't seen the original Day of the Jackal, and I probably didn't even know that film existed when I first saw this film. I just like the fact of, you know, a hitman. I like Bruce Willis. The thought of him playing a baddie. You know, there was a lot of things that attracted me to this film. Now, after watching it many, many years later for the first time in a long time, it gives you the opportunity to kind of look over things with a more critical eye. And while I do still think this film has a lot of things going for it, I really do. I thought there were some excellent things going for it. I could see why it wasn't really what you could describe as a smash hit at the same time. Now, Bruce Willis, at this time when he made this film, was absolutely in his prime in regards to being a major, major star. So he, you know, could command pretty much any role that he wanted in Hollywood at this time. You know, he was that, you know, one of the biggest stars at the time. So pretty ballsy move, really, to kind of play the killer, but he pulls it off really quite well here. You know, this cold, calculated killer. He does it with, while he does it well, I suppose, it lacks that Bruce Willis charm, but I suppose that makes sense at the same time. It's quite a reserved performance by him, because for the most part his scenes, it's just really him, you know, and occasionally you see him interacting with people. For the most part it's just him travelling the globe in different disguises and that kind of stuff, and that's quite fun to see. But I think Bruce Willis is really, really good in this. I really don't have a problem with his performance at all. I think it works really well. Sidney Poitier, I always like Sidney Poitier in any film that I see, and I believe this was actually as well his last, I might be wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong, I think this was his last theatrical film. I think he'd done maybe a bit of TV and documentaries after this, but I don't think he did any more like theatrical releases. I mean, Sidney Poitier is fantastic, and he's great in this. Diane Venora as well was very, very impressive here, playing like this Russian police officer that's helping out the FBI and stuff. I thought her accent was very, very good, and I enjoyed her performance and her character. And we had J.K. Simmons in this as well. I had no idea. He's kind of, I mean, it's a fairly large part, but he's basically playing an FBI agent. So for the most part, you just kind of see him tagging along with Sidney Poitier. But it's nice to see him in a film. I can't recall seeing him many times in the 90s, although he probably popped up in loads of stuff. We're known really for him from the last maybe, I don't know, 20 years, 15 years, really, when he's really, really broke through. I think Spider-Man was when his first film that everyone kind of recognised him in the early noughties. And then we've got Richard Gere. Now, while I don't have an issue with Richard Gere's performance in this film, or his accent or anything like that, I don't really. One thing that I just kept thinking about while watching this was the film just didn't need his character. If Richard Gere's character hadn't have been in this film, other than a couple of plot lines you'd have to change, they didn't need him. It would have worked perfectly fine with Sidney Poitier's character and Diane Venora's character chasing the Jackal. I think they just wanted two like big stars on the poster. You know what I mean? Bruce Willis, Richard Gere. So I kind of get that, but at the same time as well, the film. I genuinely just don't think the film needed Richard Gere's character. I think if they'd have made a braver decision and just kind of left it out, I think the film probably would have worked better, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Doesn't spoil the film, doesn't harm the film in any way. I just don't think it adds a great deal to the film, his character and the baggage that it brings. So yeah, I thought it was well made. This, I thought it was paced very well. I enjoyed watching Bruce Willis doing his hitman stuff, even though when you actually analyse it, he's actually not a very good hitman. When you consider he gets killed at the end, and right at the beginning when he's negotiating with this Russian guy about how much money he wants, and if there's any police involvement, I'll decide whether I call it a day, sort of thing, and blah blah blah. I just think, yeah, God, he's a bit badass, isn't he? And then as soon as he finds out that the police are involved and they're actually getting quite close to him, he's kind of like, I don't give a shit. So you would think an assassin with as much experience as he had would have walked away. But maybe it's more about his ego, I suppose, that he wanted to kind of pull off this job. Maybe, but it didn't really focus on that too much, the film. Certainly in my opinion. Apparently, from what I've researched, Richard Gere and Bruce Willis didn't really get on, even though they don't share the screen a great deal in this film, and vowed never to work with each other at the end of filming. And Frederick Forsyth, the original author of Day of the Jackal, didn't want anything to do with this film. He kind of thought it was, typical Hollywood kind of remaking something that didn't need remakings, that sort of thing. So which is why it says it's not based on his novel, it's kind of based on a screenplay sort of thing. But yeah, this is definitely one of those Bruce Willis films that, again, when people say, oh, what's your favourite Bruce Willis film? No one ever says The Jackal, and no one ever probably will. But it's one of those outside his top 10, 15 films where you kind of look at it and you think, The Jackal, oh, never seen that one. Interesting film to check out, especially now. He plays the villain, he does it quite well. It's a nicely paced film overall. It's got some good moments in it, and one that you should probably check out if you've never seen it before. So thanks for joining me for this classic Bruce Willis review. I'll be looking at some more of his in his back catalogue and reviewing them for you guys as well. So thanks for joining me once again, and I will see you very, very soon on the channel, I hope.